one another. Some of them are even laughing. It's the first time you've seen anybody laugh in more than a week. And an old doctor walks over to you and your wife and says, "Thank you. Your son's blood, it's clean, it's perfect. We'll be able to use it to make a vaccine." As the word begins to spread across the parking lot, people begin to celebrate. And then the doctor pulls you and your spouse aside again and he says, "I'm going to need a moment." You step over and he says, "We didn't realize that the donor would be a child, and what we're going to need is a consent form signed." Seems simple enough, so you begin to sign a consent form. But as you do, you realize the box for the number of pints of blood to be taken is empty. So you stop signing. You look up at the old doctor and you say, "How many pints?" And that is when the doctor's smile fades. He says, "We had no idea it would be a child. We weren't prepared. We're going to need it all." "What do you mean you're going to need it all? He's my only son." He grabs you by the shoulders, he shakes you, he says, "We're talking about the whole world here. Do you understand that? Do you get that?" You say to him, "But can't you give him a transfusion?" He says, "If we had clean blood, we would, but we don't. Please, will you sign the form? We need to hurry." You sign the form. You realize it's the only thing to do. And then he says to you, "Would you like to have a moment with your son before we get started?" Could you walk back to that hospital room where your son sits there saying, "Mommy, Daddy, what's going on?" Could you tell your son you love him and that you would never let anything happen to him? Unless, of course, it just had to be. And then when the old doctors and nurses come back and say, "I'm sorry, we've got to get started. People all over the world are dying. Could you leave?" You just turn around and walk out where your son sits there saying, "Mommy, Daddy, what's going on? Where are you going? Why are you leaving? Why have you abandoned me?" And then next week, next Sunday, for example, when they hold a ceremony to honor your son, some folks don't bother to come because, let's face it, they've got better things to do. A whole bunch of people come with a pretentious smile and just pretend to care. Another whole bunch of people come and sit around and say, "This is pretty boring." Wouldn't you want to stand up and say, "Excuse me, people, my son, he died so that you could have the extraordinary life that you have"? Maybe that's what God wants to say. Maybe in the midst of this culture that's all consumed with what's in it for me, what do I get out of it, and how quickly do I get it? Maybe we've missed the point. Maybe we've overlooked the point.
Excuse me, people. That's my son. He died so that you could live the extraordinary life that you have. God the Father sent his only Son to die for us so that we could live forever. Jesus gave every drop of his blood so that we could be cured of the fatal illness that sin is. And Jesus is with us right now in this Mass. And he gives us his body and his blood in Holy Communion. Perhaps Matthew Kelly opened your eyes to see this Mass in a way that you've never seen it before. Please come for all 3 nights, or as many of them as you can, because of the generous gift of someone. The only cost to you is your time. And I promise you, through Matthew Kelly's presentation, your life, your outlook will be changed. Lord, I want to see. Go your way. Your faith has saved you.